There are two parts of any essay that can make or break your writing, and that is the introduction and the conclusion. So these two parts of an essay form the backbone of your academic piece of writing. The introduction captivates the reader from the beginning, and then the conclusion leaves a lasting impact based off of what you are saying and how you've kind of discussed the finalizing points before you finished the essay. It's important to think of the introduction as a way that you are framing your points to come in your discussion, and you're also providing some sort of context to what you'll be saying next. And these are really important characteristics to think about when you're writing an essay. Remember that an introduction is essentially a bit of a persuasive aspect of your essay, because it's the first thing that the reader is reading and you're kind of trying to keep them reading along. If they've already dropped off from the first paragraph, you've failed at persuading the reader to keep on reading. So the first paragraph, that first introduction, needs to be incredibly strong. And in today's video, I'm going to be going through how to write a compelling introduction and how to write a compelling conclusion to ensure that you are hitting those first class marks by using AI tools such as Jenny.ai. And if you like this kind of video, then don't forget to subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like this video, and also leave me a comment and let me know what more you want to see from me within the aspect of academic writing, use of AI, productivity, and things like that, and I will definitely plan videos in the future to accommodate. So let's start with the introduction. Now, I've read hundreds, if not thousands, of introductions, and so I know exactly when an introduction is done right, and I know exactly what is needed to captivate the reader in a way that doesn't need that many words. The first thing you need in any introduction is a hook. And a hook is the initial sentence that grabs and captivates the reader through something very interesting. So that could be an interesting fact, a statistic, a quote, something that kind of leads the reader in from that initial sentence. Within academia, I like to even think about adding a question here. So usually I'll add something like a powerful quote, giving a statistic for how many people are impacted by X disease or kind of X condition, and then I'll ask a question that kind of leads the reader on to think about whether or not there could be a change or whether or not there could be an impact of what I'm going to be speaking about next. There has to be contextual information in your introduction, and you'll be surprised how many times I don't see context. Now, by context, I mean background information. You don't have to go into that much detail. You can add more detail later on, but at least providing a definition, at least providing what the general topic is about. Like I said, giving a statistic, showing the impact, how kind of important is this topic, and allowing the reader to understand your place in the specific research area. The third thing, again, another thing that I very regularly see missed out, is a thesis statement. And by that, what that means is a statement that specifically says what your aims are within this essay, research paper, literature review, whatever it is you're writing, something to state what your aims are. You want to say what the main argument or the purpose is of this paper. Now, it doesn't have to be given so directly. You don't have to say the purpose of this essay is to, I mean, you can do that and I've seen it been done before, but there are sleeker ways of doing it. And this, again, kind of just falls into giving the opening sentence, then giving some context, and then kind of sliding in what the aims are of this essay without explicitly stating it. Now, let me show you an example, and to be able to do this, I'm going to be showing it to you on Jenny.ai. And Jenny.ai is an AI-powered writing tool that is your writing assistant. So Jenny uses AI technology to formulate the next best sentence for you based on what is already written. Jenny also helps you build your literature review library, which also allows you to reference and find information from at the same time. I've opened up Jenny, and the first thing it asks me is, what am I writing about today? And I've given some information about the generalized topic. I then get an automated first sentence. So this is the first sentence, like I mentioned earlier, that really grabs the reader's attention. And as you can see here, it says something about the world being dominated by technology, fast-paced lifestyles, urban landscapes. It's given a really captivating first sentence that grabs the reader's attention, and it also provides plenty with references as well. Now, I've continued to write my introduction, and I've continued to think about the different characteristics of a good introduction, as I mentioned. So for example, giving a statistic saying the average person spends nearly 90% of their time indoors, and this is a question. I've also given a good outline. I've explained the structure. I've also got this thesis statement in there, and I've just got a lot of text, and I need to now try to perfect it and make it sound a bit better. So one of the first things that I'm going to do is, I think there's one paragraph here that's a little bit too long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the AI commands in Jenny to simplify it for me. Now, it's not only just too long, but it's also a little bit too chatty. So it's not very academic. So I'm going to simplify it, but using the academic specification. What it's done here is it's taken all of the first person I's out, and automatically it has made it sound a lot better. So that is something that I'm going to be accepting and changing up. Now, the next thing that I want to do is also think about, are there any paragraphs here that I think are just redundant? Because, you know, when you're writing and you're just getting things down, sometimes things are not always necessary. So one of the things that I know here is that this paragraph, the penultimate one, is actually not really necessary. So I've completely deleted that. Remember that the introduction needs to be around 10% of your total essay or your total piece of academic writing. So just consider that. Now, the next thing I want to do here is pick out some references, because of course, the introduction needs to be full of references to refer to other people's work and to refer to the literature. And what I've done here is I've just selected where I want the reference to go, and I've gone to cite, and it has read the sentence before and looked for relevant references for that particular topic. So these are not the ones that are actually in my library, but it has done a kind of like a literature search for me, and it has found the most appropriate and actually quite recent papers that are relevant that I can actually reference. You can also read the research papers as well, of course, which I really recommend, and making sure that it is what you want to say and that you do understand what has been said. So I've just kind of gone through the introduction and I've looked for a few references, because of course, if you're stating something like studies have shown that, you have to add what that study is, or you have to add a few studies, especially if you say things like numerous studies say, or there are so many studies, and then if you don't add any studies at all, this doesn't look very good, of course. So that is something I'm also doing here, and you can just see how easy Jenny makes it for you to be able to do this. It's all in one, it's all in the same screen. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not having to go and search on other platforms or doing a Google search, and the references are automatically added to my citation list at the bottom of my essay, and you can very easily change what style or format you want to use as well. Now, another thing that you could do that I haven't done here is that you can actually ask it to write an introduction for you. So if I had already written the main body of my essay, I could have said, write an introduction for me, and that would have also done a good job. And then when it comes to editing, there are a few different things that you can do. So improving the fluency, paraphrasing, simplifying, making it longer, translating, writing an opposing argument, and things like that. And that's something that I would use at the end when I've finished writing everything and I'm ready to kind of submit. So you can really see it coming together. I think this introduction is a first class level introduction. It has enough detail, it has all the characteristics of a good introduction, and it's ready to be submitted. The next thing you want in your introduction is something about the scope. So what exactly is going to be covered within this essay? Now, again, this doesn't mean just listing and saying chapter 1 will be about this, or section 1 will be about that, or paragraph 2, but it's just about kind of stating what some of the topics are you are going to be touching upon, or what some of the arguments are you're going to be touching upon. For example, if you are writing about the impact of financial cuts within schools, you could say something like, there are a number of different factors and characteristics that are impacted as a result of financial reduction. These are behavior, extracurricular activities, school trips, use of textbooks, good teachers, whatever. So you've kind of listed a number of different factors that you'll be speaking about, and that's enough. That tells the reader what they're going to expect to hear from you, and it kind of gives them a bit of a summary as to what you'll be saying and what you'll be implementing within your discussion. Think of this as a bit of a roadmap of your structure. I really love it when I see this like outline and scope that's given within an essay introduction. I think it's done very well, and it always is a good sign of an essay to come. And then the last thing is the transition. You need to make sure you are transitioning out of your introduction and into the main body. A lot of the time I see very abrupt kind of transitions. So speaking about the introduction, giving some background information, and going straight into paragraph number 1. You need to give some sort of flow that allows you to bridge the introduction to the next paragraph. And it's as simple as using a linking sentence. So if the first paragraph is about, like I said, behavior in schools as a result of financial reduction and funding, in that last paragraph of the introduction, you can say something like, one of the key areas of child development as a result of school cuts is the impact on behavior. And this is something that has a whole school effect and something that we are looking to, discuss, blah, blah, and then you can kind of go to the next sentence. So you can see that it's in one sentence, I've just simply touched upon what I'll be speaking about next. And then in the next paragraph, I'm actually going to go into more detail and speak about it in enough depth. So that's the introduction, that's all that you need to include. Now let's move on to the conclusion. So now this is the absolute last paragraph. The first thing you want to do is reinstate your thesis. What is your thesis statement? Remind the reader what your discussion and what your argument map looked like. And this is just a way to reinforce the main argument and kind of start to bring together and end your discussion. The next thing you want to do is to summarize the key points. So let's say you had 5 main arguments, 5 main discussion points. You want to make sure you've included all of them within your essay conclusion, but not in very much depth, just enough to kind of brush upon them and remind the reader of what it was you discussed and what your angle and opinion was. Now this again is a really key part, and this is the third point, which is synthesis. You need to show that you've been able to bring the ideas together and come up with some sort of a finalizing statement that is unique to your essay. So whilst you might have brought a few different ideas together, what is the final point that you want to make? Synthesize that information and speak about it in a way that's unique to you. How has that discussion contributed to a deeper understanding of your topic? That's something that you really need to embed within the conclusion, which isn't a repetition of what you've already said, and that is how you are aiming for those top marks. The next thing that you want to include is some sort of significance statement or something about significance. The significance statement is very important as it demonstrates the implications of your discussion in a more wider perspective. So thinking about other aspects of your research area, thinking about how you can translate your discussion into things like policy, things like science communication or other communication or whatever it is that you think you could go into. How could your work contribute to the larger conversation? And then at the very end, you want to have a closing thought. So this is like towards the last couple of sentences where you're just summarizing the last thought that you want the reader to walk away with. Make sure that you are reinforcing the importance of your paper, of your discussion, and of your essay, and that is the last thing that your reader is thinking about. You can leave them with a question, a call to action, or even just a suggestion for some future research. And again, Jenny is really good at helping to write a strong conclusion, and I'm going to show you an example of how I do that now. And now I want to write and conclude my essay. So we're going to start off by writing conclusion. And as you can see, again, Jenny gives me that first sentence, presenting the evidence and just kind of underscoring what it is that we're speaking about. So, you can kind of try again. You don't have to take the sentences that you're given. Many a time, I just kind of use the first sentence because it kind of sets me off and it gets me going. But then I kind of like to write it for myself, and I tend not to accept things just because I like to kind of give it my own little twist. And now this is what I actually ended up writing, and this was my very first draft. As I said earlier, it's very, very rough, and there's still a lot that needs to be corrected and edited before I actually want to conclude. I think that it's quite a long conclusion because I just was kind of writing away, so I need to at least half this text. So I've gone through and I've actually asked the AI chat from Jenny to give me some more information just to make sure that I'm actually on the right track with my conclusions. So I've said to tell me more about the long-term impacts of increased screen time but reduced outdoor time, and it actually gave me 3 points, and these were the 3 points that I decided to make sure that I was focusing on in my conclusion. So it's not only using your library and your text within your particular essay, but it's also using the web as well. So it can pull out information. So you'll see it saying that your document doesn't speak much about it because I hadn't actually written the main body yet, but it did pull out some information from the web saying physical health, mental health, and cognitive development. And I was actually able to use this to then make sure that those are the 3 main points that I'm speaking about. I also really like this tool because it gives you a bit of a little conversational tip. So it said to me, make sure that you include a section about the specific challenges posed by increased screen time, etc. And so I just took a note there to make sure that I write about it later. But I really like this kind of personal touch where it's given me a suggestion that I think is really, really valid actually. So yeah, I went through it, and again, just wanted to delete some parts. I deleted a couple of paragraphs that I think are, again, just redundant, just a little bit of me waffling and not really much of me finalizing. So that's something that you can definitely do, and you should try to keep your conclusion around 5% of your full essay. It shouldn't really be that long. It should be about half of the introduction. So yeah, that's how you can use it. And the absolute last sentence in your conclusion should give a sense of closure of your paper. So it should be really obvious that this is done now. This is the roadmap of my research paper, of your essay, and I am now finished with this. Again, it's quite often that I see a conclusion that feels like it wants to carry on talking or feels like it has just stopped. So there's still some new discussion happening in the conclusion, and then it just stops. It sounds and it feels wrong when reading it from the outsider point of view. So you make sure that there's some sort of finalizing statement that just closes off that chapter. I hope that gave some clarity and understanding as how to write a good introduction and how to write a good conclusion and the components of what you need to include within it. And as you saw in today's video, I've also given you examples using Jenny.ai. Feel free to use a discount code Amina20 for some money off of your subscription, and I'll leave the link for it in the description down below, so feel free to go and click on that and yeah, check it out and let me know how you find it. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.